Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel V. Hill, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel V. Hill.
Welcome into Coffee Break, everyone. James Marilat, Will Peterson filling in for Rachel V. Hill today. James, still no Nuggets news. Still no Nuggets news. I was hopeful. You and I did the show on 104.3 The Fan last night, and I was like, okay, maybe we'll get more Nuggets news in between last night and this afternoon. But as of now, all still quiet. You told me last night your panic meter's at a 2.
Yeah.
I'm at about an 8.
I know.
Where you at after another good night of rest and nothing from Calvin Booth?
We spent an hour on Denver Sports Tonight last night yelling at each other. Hopefully we don't do the same thing here on Coffee Break. I'm still at like a 2. And, you know, I get why you're at an 8. I understand why people are frustrated. You're watching other teams get better, and the Nuggets just seem to be kind of in, you know, spinning their wheels mode. And this would, if they didn't do anything else, this would be the second straight offseason that the roster on paper has taken a step backward from where they were when they won a championship. I get it. I guess I'm just looking at it more pragmatically and like from a realistic standpoint of like, you can't sign everybody. You can't pay everyone. One, it's a salary cap sport. Trying to figure out the NBA salary cap, partially I think you always talk about how the NFL salary cap's a myth.
It doesn't exist. Yeah.
I think the NBA one might be too, because it seems like all the time the Lakers, the Sixers, the Celtics, they can trade for and sign and do anything they want with anyone.
The Celtics have given out $1 billion in contracts.
I know.
And they have kept their championship core together. I think that's some of the problem Nuggets fans has. It feels like Woj is dropping a new bomb every 5 minutes about the Celtics and about the Orlando Magic. And it's like, are these owners willing to pay and the Nuggets aren't? It's just confusing right now for fans.
And the system's very confusing, and it feels like the Nuggets are always having a fight with one arm tied behind their back. But I do think from a pragmatic standpoint, like, you can't pay anyone. So my position on it is, as long as they're keeping their core 4, and part of our discussion yesterday was who's in that 4, but to me it's Jokic, Murray, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr. As long as those 4 guys are here, the pieces around them are going to have to be a bit of a revolving door. That's just the reality of the situation, especially with the new CBA. And you're constantly changing who those surrounding pieces are until you're able to find the right mix, the right blend. They didn't quite have it this past year, partially because Michael Malone didn't trust some of the people that were part of that blend, and partially because they just had guys who didn't develop over the course of the season, young players. But I just am not panicking over losing the 5th best starter in what people say is the best starting 5 in basketball, which, quick side note, that is the biggest bunch of bunk. It just gets repeated over and over and over again.
Well, the numbers back it up. I mean, there are a lot of metrics that show that their plus minus is better than anyone else in the NBA.
They've got the best player in the world on the team. He's won 3 of the last 4 MVPs. Is there the other 4? How many All-Star games has those 4 been to?
None.
So how can that be the best starting 5 in basketball?
Because I think Jokic elevates all of them.
Well, then he should elevate.
Look at him getting Bruce Brown paid. Look at him getting KCP paid. He's going to get Aaron Gordon paid. He's going to get Jamal Murray paid. He got Michael Porter Jr. paid.
Agreed. You're making my point that then they should be able to elevate Peyton Watson, Christian Brown, whoever else.
They got to get on the floor to be able to elevate him.
So if they're going to now because KCP's leaving. So if other teams want to overpay players who aren't as good as their numbers may suggest because Jokic elevates them, the Nuggets would be foolish to pay a premium for a guy that they know isn't as good as his numbers suggest when they can take someone else, put him in there, and being with Jokic will elevate him. So I honestly just think, and listen, I'll be the first one to jump on a team if I think they're being cheap. But I don't expect a team that I root for to lose money. I think that's an unrealistic expectation. It is a business. So I think from a business standpoint, letting KCP go for 3 years, $66 million to the Magic, let Orlando regret that deal in 18 months, not the Nuggets.
Okay, well, I don't think the Nuggets are losing money anytime soon. The NBA is a cash cow. They're signing $6 billion media rights deal. I think they're becoming the NFL before our eyes. So
maybe.
I don't think Kroenke's going into the red if they pay KCP. I just don't. I don't buy that logic. I think they are pocketing hundreds of millions of dollars every year from this basketball team.
There's a floor. There's a cap. Look, they have the 7th highest payroll at the moment in the NBA next year. They're not the 7th biggest market. They don't have the 7th most
market
revenue.
Size doesn't matter in the NBA
Yeah,
anymore.
that's because you still get a local TV deal. It's not as big as baseball, but I guarantee you the Knicks and the Lakers are having a ton of cash coming in from their local TV deal. The Nuggets are basically having zero at the moment. Now that's partially, not even partially, that's nearly 100% their fault at this point. But even if the Comcast thing was resolved, it's a little bit like the Rockies trying to compete with the Dodgers and Yankees when it comes to local TV money. Basketball is not as extreme as baseball, but it's still partially it. Being 7th in the league in spending, listen, if they were 17th or 27th, we could both be on here and just yelling and screaming about how Stan Kroenke and Josh Kroenke are cheap. I don't think it's fair at this point to label them as such.
Okay, but KCP we're going to differ on. I think he was the 4th best player. You think he was the 5th best player. Let's talk about, though, they haven't done anything at all.
Yeah.
Nothing. They have not made a move yet. Okay, they salary dumped Reggie Jackson to Charlotte. We keep hearing these Russell Westbrook rumors. Can you understand? KCP happened Sunday night. I'm over KCP by Wednesday. I'm not over the fact that Calvin Booth is nowhere to be found. When they introduced Ron Holmes at a presser on, what was that, Monday? And they did it with an assistant GM. Where's the GM of the team? There's rumors he's in Europe trying to get Vlatko done. Why is Vlatko the priority right now? Calvin Booth is not in Denver by all accounts, and nothing's getting done. Did he not know free agency started on June 30th?
Well, it's a lot of the same argument I used to make about John Elway back in the day when he was the Broncos GM, and he would be in Coeur d'Alene, and he'd be in Palm Springs, and he'd be in Santa Barbara, and he'd be in Tahoe, and everybody just told me, hey, you can take your iPad anywhere. I'm like, there's a difference between sitting by the pool and looking at your iPad and being in the office. It's just a different mindset. I think Calvin Booth can still get work done. It does beg the question, though, what is he over there for? And if it's for Vlatko, I'm with you of like, really? Like all these Nuggets apologists telling me like, oh, the big problem this year was Vlatko got hurt. Like that happened ages ago.
Yeah.
It was like,
and Vlatko didn't show me anything.
It was before the season even started.
Yeah.
Like they had plenty of time to deal with that. The only time I think an injury is an excuse for a team is if it happens after the trade deadline, right? Like Danilo Gallinari getting hurt in the 57 win season right at the end of the regular season was the first year after Melo was gone. He's arguably their best player at that point, their best scorer. That blew that season up. What are they going to do about it?
Well, and side note on that, the Warriors may have never been the Warriors if Gallo doesn't get hurt, because there was rumors that the Warriors were going to entertain Steph Curry trades that summer.
Yep.
Instead, they beat the Nuggets, go on a bit of a run, and the dynasty happens. You know, I'm a big butterfly effect guy, but that is a very good butterfly effect. What if Gallo doesn't get hurt? Golden State may never become Golden State.
And I don't want to be an alarmist. And I wrote a story today at denversports.com, and it was based on something Zach By said yesterday on the drive. And he's talking about how his fear is that there may be a rift between Nikola Jokic and the organization. And he makes a good point from the standpoint of everybody just assumes that Nikola Jokic is this easygoing, happy-go-lucky guy. He's just always going to be a good soldier no matter what happens to the Nuggets. He's just going to roll in and be goofball and have fun and win MVPs and make the Nuggets a contender. At some point, if the team continues to not put the right roster around him in his eyes, right? I don't necessarily think KCP is a big departure, but if he does, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Is Calvin Booth over there dealing with some situation we don't know about? Because it makes no sense to me that he's in Europe to deal with Vlatko. Like, really?
Wait, so you're telling me you think Calvin Booth may be in Serbia talking to his star player?
Makes more sense to me than he's over there courting Vlatko.
Well, the plot thickens if that is indeed the case.
Does he have to go over there to court Vlatko?
No, you wouldn't think so.
Okay, well, so that's what we're hearing. That makes no sense to me. I call Balderdash. I just don't buy it.
All right, so who is happy with the Denver Nuggets right now? Because Jamal Murray reportedly has this 4-year, $209 million deal that has been on this table for a week, has not signed it yet. Aaron Gordon's looking to get an extension. We haven't heard any whispers of that getting offered. KCP, Tony Jones, The Athletic reports he did get the same offer from the Nuggets, chose the Magic instead.
Wasn't it KCP's wife, though, that shut that down?
She had a one-word comment on Instagram. I don't.
False.
Yeah.
That's a big word.
And then Michael Porter Jr. obviously dealing with a tremendous amount of personal adversity in his life right now. You bring up Jokic, and is there this rift? Like, I don't know who's happy on the Nuggets right now. Is this this going to sound like a strong word, but I'll just throw it out there. Is this kind of crumbling before our eyes? This team and this window, the way this offseason has gone so poorly the last 72 hours, I don't know who's happy on the roster right now. And I think crumble's a strong word. I think it could be a fair word at the moment.
It does feel a little bit like it's on the brink of unraveling, right? And it's a little bit like that thread on your shirt that you're going to pull, and it could just snap off and don't know that I ever snagged it. Or you could pull it and it starts going all the way around you and the whole thing's coming apart. And it's like, oh my gosh, I created a mess way worse than the string that was just hanging out. It does feel like it could turn into that. But let's say a week from now, they've done the deal for Russell Westbrook. Jamal has signed his extension, and there's reports out that Aaron Gordon's extension is imminent. And then I think we're all sitting there going,
I think we'll all feel a lot better.
And so I think it's the unknown. I think there's a little FOMO. I think there's a little bit like, well, everybody else is getting to celebrate their team doing something and imagine what next year's roster is going to be. And Nuggets fans are just like, are we in a hammock somewhere? What's going on?
Well, it's like that meme with the stick, like you're poking it, like do something. And Calvin Booth's the thing we're all poking, do something.
Which I get it, but I'm not going to panic until something with the big four looks problematic. If Jamal Murray says he's not signing that, If Aaron Gordon they're not going to offer him one, If Calvin Booth is over in Serbia trying to smooth things over with Jokic, we don't know any of that at this point. So I think we just feel like everybody else got invited to the party and we're sitting at home. And that's a bummer. I get it, but I don't think it's worth panicking over.
All right. It's a 20-minute show, so we are going to move on to the Colorado Avalanche. Obviously, Chris McFarland has done, I believe, 8 moves now in the first 48 hours of free agency. Jonathan Drouin, of course, the headliner, getting the $2.5 million to come back. Yakov Trenin, who scored 1 playoff point for the Avs last year, got $3.5 million from the Minnesota Wild. So I think that goes to show you who's more valuable to the Avs, Drouin or Trenin. And Drouin comes back for $1 million less than Trenin. None of the other moves are having us plan a parade, but it kind of feels like they're just sort of plugging this roster in. Where are you at with the Avalanche through a couple of days as they try to replenish their third and fourth lines?
I'm fine with what they're doing, right? Like, essentially, and it's a little bit like the same situation with the Nuggets of you have your stars, you have the guys making the big money, and for the Avs, it's McKinnon, Makar, and Rantanen.
And Landeskog and Nichushkin.
Those are 2 other guys, so hopefully they're a part of it, but there are 3 that we know of, could be 5. And if you look back to the Cup year a couple of years ago, it was those same 5 guys that were the stars making the bulk of the money. And then you're just kind of rotating through supporting actors and you're hoping you find the right mix. And in the Cup year in 2022, they did 2021.
But they had more than just supporting. I mean, Nazem Kadri's more than a supporting actor. Andre Burakovsky played like more than a supporting actor.
But they made some moves at the deadline that benefited him, and they had some guys who were here
Cogliano, Manson,
a few guys that were here for a few months and played big roles. And the last couple of years in the playoffs, they haven't had that right mix. Plus, they've had to count on them too much, right? The Val thing 2 years in a row, that derails everything. Landeskog being hurt, well, that's a huge factor. And then Kadri not being there. Those 3 guys not being there from the Cup year put too much pressure on the supporting actors to have to do too much, and they weren't up to the task. So
you were asking like Alex Newhook and JT Comfort to step up. It just wasn't going to happen.
No, and it's, so this team, though, they're not going to be able to go out in free agency, whether it's because of the cap, how much money they have tied up in 2 guys who may not play or whatever, and find replacements for Val and Landy. So they kind of just have to hope those 2 can play for totally different reasons.
Sure.
And then hope they're just replenishing and the revolving, going through the revolving door with the right pieces. Is this the right mix? I don't know. You never know until you take it out of the oven and take a taste of whether or not your experiment with all the different things you threw into the chicken pot pie worked.
Well, we may not find out till April, May, or June, right? Because I don't care if the Avalanche win the President's Trophy. We're not having a parade if the Avs win the President's Trophy. It's all about getting it done in the playoffs. I wrote at denversports.com. I think they should still explore trading Valeri Nichushkin. I think getting that 6.125 and more importantly, the last 6 years of this deal off the books would be huge. I don't think you're as warm on that idea, but I just think it's time to move on. And he probably, well, not probably, he should have played his last game for the Avs. He's now burned you twice.
I just think there's a better chance that Val gets it right, which isn't 100% by any means.
I mean, he's now in phase 3. It's his 3rd stint in rehab. Chris McFarland told us earlier this week he's doing his rehab in Russia this time.
I don't even know if it's a 50-50 shot that he gets it right, but I think there's a better chance that happens than you trade him, which is essentially dump his salary, get it off the books.
It's fully a salary dump
for somebody who can be 50% as good as he is when he's on the ice. I think you're better off just hoping he gets it right. But listen, if
hope is not a strategy, my friend.
Well, hoping you get somebody that can fill his shoes isn't a strategy either.
But $6 million is a lot of money to play with in the NHL. You're not giving any Joe Schmo $6 million. I promise a $6 million player would come in and be productive, especially because guys who play with Nathan McKinnon are generally productive.
I guess I would just need to hear some names of who these $6 million guys are.
Well, a lot of them have gone off the board in the last 48 hours.
Listen, if they trade Val and they dump the salary and the 6 years is the bigger thing, because the odds of him not having a problem in 6 years, I think at this point we're naive if we think nothing else is going to happen. I won't be upset about it. I'll probably, depending on what they get in return, say, hey, good for Chris McFarland that he got a sucker to take that deal off his hands. I'm hoping Val can get it right because, man, this team, we saw it this year in the playoffs. In the first round when Val was playing great, they're a cup contender.
They were winning every game against Winnipeg like 6-4. It's like that's how they win the cup. That's how they won it 2 years ago.
When he's not there, they've been bounced both times.
James,
Seattle
I was at the double OT
Dallas.
game where they lost 2-1.
Yeah,
to prove your point there. I mean, they played 5 periods of hockey that night at Ball Arena. They scored 1 goal.
Here's why I go with I'm going to hope that Val can just get it figured out, because we know how good this team is when Val's right. We know, we've seen it. Whoever they trade for, whoever they spend that $6 million on, we don't know that this team is a contender when with those people. Could be. We just don't know it. So I'm going to go with a known commodity. I know that's hope. I know hope's not a strategy, but we know for a fact how good this team is when he's right.
All right. Normally the Broncos don't make a lot of news this time of year, but we did have news last night. Mike Kliss, our 104.3 The Fan and 9 News Broncos insider, breaking that Inyuma Awazarike, remember he was suspended a year ago, James, that he may not get reinstated on July 24th, which looked like a formality because he's now under investigation by Arapahoe County and the Colorado Division of Gaming. Obviously, Innie, as he likes to be called, made a big mistake. He bet on 5 Broncos games, including a game he played in. But this now complicates things, too, that criminal charges could be coming. And these leagues don't like criminal charges. And it sounds like if they drop the hammer and charge him in a court, the NFL is going to say, nope, not reinstated.
Well, they shouldn't reinstate him anyway. I mean, it should be just like Michael Porter Jr.'s brother, who got a lifetime ban from the NBA because he was involved with people betting on games he played in. That's a cardinal sin in professional sports. You just can't allow it. It chips away at the integrity of the game. And once that goes away, there's no reason to tune in. There's no reason for those who want to wager on it to wager on it. If the fix is in, it becomes WWE, and nobody wants to watch that. So,
well, people like watching wrestling, but they know the fix is in.
Well, yeah. The NFL is not going to get the audience they get
right
if people think the games are rigged.
No,
right?
Of course not.
And it starts going down that slippery slope. If people are betting on the sport, if they're betting on their team, if they're betting on games they played in, that you can't allow that. I don't know why the NFL didn't ban him for life. So the fact that he's even up for reinstatement to me is a miss. And it just sounds kind of like the NFL is kicking the can down the road and they want it to be somebody else's problem and let the authorities make the decision instead of them just doing what's right for their league. You got to have a no tolerance policy for that. Listen, I'm all for second chances and I hope the kid gets it all figured out, but you just can't do that. Everybody in any professional sports league, even if you don't play in the games, knows the rules. It's posted everywhere. You're told it a million times. He chose to ignore it and try to think he was above the law. Sorry, you blew your opportunity.
Mike does say that Innie is going to Gamblers Anonymous classes once a week, also attending therapy. So I'm with you. Like, he's trying to do the right things, but he may have blown his. I mean, no one's crying tears for Jonte Porter, right?
No,
so
it's the same thing,
and it's the same exact thing, more or less. So yeah, it's going to be one to watch for sure. You did say last night, though, you don't like the fact that the league is now waiting on the courts when the crime's already been, like, this happened 11 months ago, and now we're just hearing about it. That's kind of my problem with it. Is you can't just redo the punishment when the punishment's already been handed out, just because the courts are now potentially involved.
Unless he did something else since the suspension came down, then changing the punishment based on what the authorities in Colorado do seems like it's double jeopardy. The league already punished him once for the crime. They can't punish him, in my mind, again for the same crime. Now, they should have punished him more severely, but that's a different conversation. I do think they're double dipping here, and that's problematic. They need to get their policy clarified, have it be definitive, and have it be, if you do this, you're gone. And it's Pete Rose style to me. Like, Pete Rose knew the rules.
Yes.
I don't feel sorry for Pete Rose just because now it's been however many decades, and I feel bad for the all-time hit leader. Too bad, you knew the rules, and if you're going to break them, you got to pay the consequences.
All right. We appreciate everyone tuning in. Rachel Vigil will be back next week. Wish everyone a happy 4th of July. Stay safe, stay smart, and we'll catch you next time on Coffee Break.